Aloha, everyone, and welcome to the neighborhood board meeting number 5 for Diamond Head, Kapahulu, St. Louis Heights for December 14, 2023. I'll call the meeting to order. I am chair of the board, Winston Welch, and if you would be so kind as to do a roll call, Mr. Secretary, Mr. Buck.
Thank you. Thank you. Allen,
Here.
Boydell.
Here.
Thank you. Decker. Hasina.
Yeah.
Knight.
Here.
Matson. Murakawa. Murchie.
Here.
Thank you. Velasco.
Here.
Welch.
Here.
Weitzel.
Here.
Bruce Wong. I see you there, Bruce. And Linda Wong. All right. Thank you, Chair. We have 8, which is quorum. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just a reminder tonight, we have a pretty full agenda as always. So as we go through, let's, have as much aloha as possible with time for each other and no need to belabor things. Of course, I am guilty of that myself. So I will ask our Vice Chair, Arlene Velasco, to help us keep time and let us know when we may be going over. For the public wishing to testify about things, there's a 2-minute time limit. And thanks for your vote on that, Dan. I would like to begin by welcoming our officers from the Honolulu Fire Department. Oh, I'm sorry. Right before that, I'm sorry, sir. I would like to see if we have any folks interested in filling the vacant board seat for Subdistrict 3. We have 2 vacancies. Are there any people online or in person who wish to be considered for that seat, one of those 2 seats? I'm guessing no one in person, so seeing that, we will again ask your friends or relatives or neighbors if they would like to help us out here for next month. Next, let's just move on then to the Honolulu Fire Department Waikiki Station.
Hi, I'm Shannon over at the Waikiki Fire Station. Incident statistics for November 2023. Fires, we have 1 structure fire. Nuisance, we have 1. Activated alarms, we have 3. Emergencies, we have 63 for medicals. Motor vehicle crash collisions, we have 7. And hazardous material incidents, we have 1. A fire safety tip for holiday decorations. Carefully decorating your home can help make your holidays safer. Ensure decorations are at least 3 feet from heat sources and do not block the exits. If you choose to use a natural tree, ensure it is watered regularly. As trees dry out, they become more and more flammable. Be careful with electrical decorations. Ensure they are used in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. Always turn off Christmas tree lights before leaving your home or going to bed. Always keep candles, matches, and lighters securely out of reach of children. Remember to blow out all candles prior to leaving home or going to bed. Are there any questions?
Are there any questions in person for our fire department? Any questions online? I did have a question. I was at another meeting where I had heard that there was a fire on from one of the campers on Diamond Head that was put out. Was that your station that responded to that? And do you have any plans of action with especially with Diamond Head, since that's in our district of that has changed since the tragedy in Lahaina?
I'm gonna hand you off to my captain.
Okay.
everybody. Joshua Chase, captain at Engine 7, first one. Waikiki. Henry, I just got back from Lahaina Coast Guard Reserve, but we get a lot of those kind of calls. And most of them are pretty simple cooking fires and put them out pretty quickly. But you know, we haven't had any real big, crazy fires over there. So, yeah, what is it? What is your question?
I heard that DLNR is working on sort of fire management techniques in light of the disaster, and of course the situations are not dissimilar here with St. Louis Heights next to the university. It's probably not exactly St. Louis Heights, but it's right behind the faculty housing there, and also with Diamond Head just being tinder boxes and the risk of fires there, and that there was a fire that was put out apparently by, I'm guessing it was Honolulu Fire Department. Do you all have updated plans with that? Are you working with DLNR on that, or with the? I suppose that hillside is probably DLNR, but it could be part of the university's property.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a mixed on each side of the road. There's different state and I think that or city. I think they have access to it, but I'm pretty sure it was DLNR and HPD kind of clearing the area. They kind of do a clearing of all the homeless over there. We see them every time we kind of go around and check out the area. But I think that's all we can really do for this, just from them lighting there for accidental maybe cooking fires. And then of course us making our rounds and people reporting it as fast as we can.
Okay, well, thank you. It's an emerging issue all around the state. I think that we have to address as a community, just given the realities that we got today. So thank you very much for coming out tonight and all the good work that you folks do. Okay, if there are no other questions, then I will ask that officers from District 6, Waikiki, Kapiolani Park, Diamond Head from the Honolulu Police Department join us.
Hi, good evening. I'm Lieutenant Komodo from District 6, Waikiki. I'm going to be going over the stats for the previous month. This is going to be for November 2023. We had 10 robberies, 9 burglaries, 139 thefts, 21 unlawful entry into motor vehicles, 38 assaults, 4 sex crimes. We had citations for bikes and skateboards on sidewalk. We had 26. 7 speeding citations, 1,362 citations for parking. Park closures, we had 19 citations, and total calls for service for the month of November is 4,345. That's all I have.
Thank you. Are there questions in person for District 6 Police Department?
This is Arlene Velasco. I do have a quick question. There has been a couple incidents in my neighborhood with downlines. 2 transformers blew right in front of my condos. I dialed, of course, 911. And on a walk yesterday, there was a wire on a pole on Maserat that was looked exposed. So should we dial 911 in those cases, or?
Yeah, you could call 911, but I mean, essentially, HECO would probably have to come out, take a look at it, or even Spectrum. A lot of times we can't really tell on the wires, which wires we're looking at, which is either high voltage. So you can call 911 and the call taker would probably just disseminate the call accordingly.
Any other questions in person? Online? Seeing none, thank you very much, sir, for coming out.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
And our officer from District 7, Diamond Head, Kapalulu, St. Louis Heights, East Honolulu.
Hi, good evening. Lieutenant Nishimura from HPD District 7, East Honolulu. The following are the monthly statistics for November. Motor vehicle theft, 19, burglary, 4, theft, 14, UEMV or car break-ins, 8, with total calls for service, 6,161. Our monthly safety tip is holiday safety tips. For safety at home, please secure your homes, your windows and your doors when you leave. With regards to, also, please don't display any gifts that can be seen from the outside looking into your home for your home security. Safety while you go shopping, please park in a well-lit area. Please be careful of your surroundings, of who or what may be around you. And also, please secure your items when you are shopping. If they can be seen from the outside in, then that can be a contributing factor to a car break-in while you're shopping. For online shopping, if a deal looks too good to be true, it might be. So please do your research. And also, please be aware of the different variety of online scams that occur during this time of the year. And that's our report for the month. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have questions for our officer from District 7 tonight, Mr. Nishimura? Go ahead, Angie.
I do have one question, and I'm so sorry if this is not actually a question for you, but just out of curiosity, because I feel like I missed this somehow. Do you know how long the on-ramp for H1 off of Fifth Avenue is going to be blocked during morning commute times?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what the time frame looks on that.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions in person? Okay, and online, I did see Dylan.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so a couple of weeks ago, I was basically witness to a car accident on Campbell and Castle. I was driving and a motorcyclist was coming the opposite way, but I watched as a driver pulled into the intersection and it caused the motorcyclist to basically T-bone them. And so I pulled over, called the ambulance, everything, assisted the motorcyclist. And it was just a really bad situation. But I think a lot of it is the result of people parking their cars basically at the curbs, especially when there are setbacks that you're supposed to follow. Like, I think maybe if I'm wrong, but like 10 feet behind a stop sign, you're not supposed to park. But we get a lot of that in our neighborhood of people parking right up to the curbs at cross streets, and it makes it really difficult for people to see around corners and see oncoming traffic. And I think that was probably a factor in why that car accident happened. You know, people just can't see around corners when they're turning onto roads. And so I was just wondering, you know, like, just, I know you guys are all busy, but, you know, just when you have the chance, just going around the neighborhood, if you see cars that are basically parked right at the intersections of streets, and I mean, if that is something that can be enforced, just to try and remove some of these blind spots when people are driving. You know, there are some roads I'm on where I basically just have to pull into traffic and just hope that no one hits me, you know, because I can't see around corners.
Yeah, we can definitely do checks for that and conduct enforcement as needed. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a scary situation, and maybe Dylan, I see Anton Krupke here, but I remember there was some discussion about that we could possibly get some red paint and paint. The city used to do this, and then they stopped doing it. But with red back to whatever the legally allowable place is for not being able to park, that might help there. And that's a terribly dangerous intersection, as is, you know, so many on Campbell. Thank you for bringing that up. It must have been scary to witness. I hope that the motorcyclist was okay. Laura, you have a question for the officer.
Yes, at this board and also at our neighborhood board 8, which you sort of overlap, there seems to be Sundays, if I can determine it, but maybe other days, there is a whole fleet, if I'll put it that way, of mopeds that either come off the Kapiolani off ramp onto Kapiolani or come somewhere along Kapiolani, and they just roar recklessly down the street. And I think those are the same ones that show up in the parks at Diamond Head. And I think this would be Sunday mornings around 9 to 10 or whatever that they do this roaring. And then they probably show up at the parks. So if you could have some officers more or less observing or stationed there, I think they're very reckless, and I think it would be much a better safety thing. And if I could say just one more thing too, somebody, Winston, somebody in our neighborhood painted out the red and put gray up, and people crowd the driveways and the corners. And this makes a very dangerous situation too. I'd really like to take the red paint and put it back in. So thank you. And one more thing, I'm just going to put it in the chat. It has to do with the meeting that's tomorrow for the proposed bridge over the Alloway Canal. And it's a very siloed and historical conversation, but anybody who can come, they're only allowing us a very short period of time for community input. So I'm going to put that in the chat right now. Thank you.
Thank you. And Officer Nishimura, did you have any comments about either a paint or the motorcycles?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't have too much information with regards to the painting. We can, if we do notice it, we can kind of make a note for that, and then we pass that along to the proper whether it be city and county for follow up on that. But with regards to the mopeds, we can try and check on the weekend mornings and see what we can find with that. Thank you.
And Margaret, you have a question for Officer Nishimura?
I noticed on, I guess it was Saturday morning that, and it was in the paper too and on the news, graffiti painted on a lot of the houses and building store walls with Nazi swastikas and that. Did you guys ever find out who it was that was doing the blue painting?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have any further information with regards to that. However, if you do notice that type of graffiti, then please call us because we will document as much and gather as much information as we can. And we do pass it on to investigators who do look into it. But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have any updates on that investigation.
It was on the news and in the paper too.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Lieutenant Nishimura? Seeing none, we thank you for your service, sir, and all of the fine officers of the Honolulu Police Department and Honolulu Fire Department.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening.
Next, we have our Board of Water Supply, KCC, and any public events, notices, or announcements like fun runs or something like that. And I see, is that Kathleen?
Yes, it is. Aloha, Chair. Aloha,
Welcome.
board members. I want to report we had one 6-inch main break on November 30th on Montserrat at 3134 Montserrat Avenue. And our 2024 water conservation calendar is out. If you'd like a copy, just email me and I'll make sure you get a copy. I have some updates on a couple of construction projects. I am pleased to announce that we finally received the CDUA permit for the Diamond Head fencing. Finally, yay. They will be, our construction branch will be coordinating with the schedule with the contractor. And as soon as I get something, I will let you know. And then finally, we have a water system improvement project for Montserrat Avenue. Unfortunately, the new time frame is now between August and December of 2024 for commencement, and that is due to back order of pipe materials. So we're unfortunately still in a supply line issue. Any questions?
Any questions for Kathleen?
Hi, Kathleen. This is Arlene Velasco. I just wanted to know if you have any updates on the status of what's happening at Red Hill.
Well, today I think you saw in the paper, they're pretty much getting down to the end of the defueling. Admiral Wade has assured us that they won't stop until every last drop has, including the sludge, has been removed from the tanks. We are still trying to get some clarity on when the transfer from the Joint Task for Defueling transfer over to Admiral Barnett and his team. So we want to make sure there's still clear lines of communication and how that's all going to work. So my boss Ernie has been asking lots of questions, of course. They had a remediation meeting today, but there wasn't a lot of conversation because the Navy couldn't make it. And that has to do with the environmental remediation after the defueling. And that's pretty much it for now. And no news on our potential lawsuit, the claim that we filed. We won't know anything probably until June of next year. Thank you.
And are there any other folks in person who have a question? Okay, and Daisy?
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Kathleen. Thank you.
Hi,
for
Daisy.
thanks the Board of Water for doing such great jobs. Actually, there were two water main breaks, well, water pipes. About a couple of weeks before that, there was one at the corner of Kanaina. I don't know if it was a meter or what, but thank you for fixing both of them so quickly. And you know that the one on Montserrat, about 5 or 6 years ago, there was about twice that pipe broke right by the barber shop area. So, I mean, you know, that pipe, I think, what, 60 years plus, I think it may be time to put that on as to be repaired, because if you go further down by Campbell and Montserrat, there are two, the sinkhole appeared twice and that was fixed, but you know, things can happen, but appreciate it. Well, great work. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Are there any other questions for Kathleen? Kathleen, thank you first of all for coming all the time and your great public service, and congratulations on your award, being recognized by the city for your excellence in public service.
Thank you, sir.
I especially appreciate you following the Diamond Head fence issue for so long, and I know that's been a while in coming. I just had a quick question about do you know of any Board of Water Supply water reclamation plans or anything like that that might be taking place on the Alawai Golf Course area? It was listed in the Department of Planning and Permitting's primary urban core update, but I think it might just be not actually a plan, but maybe just a dream of theirs or something like that. Do you know about
Yeah,
that?
actually, I can give you an update on that. We did do a study a while back about using water from the sewer line that runs through the golf course for recycling for the golf course. Unfortunately, because of sea level rise and ocean water inundation, the water is too salty and it would kill the vegetation. So yeah, we really thought we had something special going on, but it's not going to happen, sad to say.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the update on that and for coming down, and I hope you have a happy holidays.
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha. Next, is there any, I saw Dean Hoshiko, and I don't see you right now, but there you are. Okay. Do you have, hi, Dean, do you have any updates for us from KCC?
Yes, I'm not going to show any construction slides tonight. You know, I guess you've seen all along what's been going on, but I wanted to make the announcement that the new CIP director was selected and confirmed by the Board of Regents, and that is Roy Yamaguchi. Roy Yamaguchi will start in his position on January the 2nd. As far as construction goes, you know, the latest timeline that I told you about at the last meeting, everything is still on track with that. I wanted to let you know that KCC this year is holding for the first time ever a fall commencement ceremony, which will be next Tuesday at the Diamond Head Theater at 5 o'clock. And finally, I want to make you aware of a special event that's going to happen in February, the week of the 22nd at Kapiolani Community College. we're going to be doing a feature of the career and technical education programs. So community are invited to attend. You'll see more information about that. There will be members of our advisory board, faculty, students, donors, and then we're partnering with Photocon, and they're going to have their conference on our campus, whereby there'll be professional photographers and videographers on site. So I'll send more information to you to put up on the site, but that's pretty much what I wanted to say today.
Thank you, Dean. Are there folks in person who have a question for the Dean? And anyone online who has a question for the Dean? Thank you for following also the Diamond Head Culinary Arts Institute. So all these years, I know you'll be relieved when that comes to fruition, and I'm sure you're happy with the choice of the new executive director. Could you tell us? So I wanted to let people know also that we were looking at having a presentation tonight about having small cell towers at KCC. And that has been postponed till our next meeting in January. And it's going to be a representative from Verizon who said that actually there's no wireless service at KCC inside of the buildings. So they're planning on putting up small cell towers. Is that news to you, Dean? Okay, I'll send you the information for that, because I said, oh, you got to be in touch with Dean Hoshiko, but I'll send you that information offline. But it will be next month, where we have ample notice for the public to attend. I know some people have concerns about that. And yeah, I just want to let them know. And you mentioned about these classes or this event that's coming up. Are there classes, continuing education classes for adults that may not be, granting a degree or something, that you could also send us over so that we can post that in our meeting materials?
Okay, sure. We're doing a lot of continuing education classes focused on workforce development. And so I can send you some of those things that are coming up. The nice thing is that because it's under a grant, the tuition is free to attend those classes.
Okay, well, we look forward to getting those, and thank you very much for your service, and hope you have happy holidays.
Oh, you too. Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, are there any other public announcements that we have, or events notices in person or online? Frank? Go ahead, Frank.
Okay. Hi, my name is Frank Floyd. I work with the Mid-Pacific Roadrunners Club, and we wanted to inform the board about two upcoming events we have in January and February. They're both road races. They both start at Kapiolani Park, and both use Diamond Head Road and go to like the Triangle Park. The courses are courses we've used in the past. We've done these races as part of what we call the Great Aloha Readiness Series. So they occur before the Great Aloha Run. The first one is an 8K. It's on January 21st, and it's called the Chapson 8K. And the second one is called the Johnny Farber 10K, and it's on February 4th. The races start at 7 in the morning in the park. It takes people an hour to 2 hours to run them. And so we're usually done around 9 a.m. or so. We typically get about 200, maybe to 300 recently runners. The numbers seem to be going up lately. The races involve no street closings. There is some coning that goes on around Diamond Head to protect the runners and keep them separate from the traffic. We do have police that cover intersections to cross the runners at a few places. So pretty much we've done this in the past for several years now, and these have been two of our more popular events.
Okay, thank you. Can you put that information in the chat if you have a link to the events?
I can.
Okay. Are there any questions or any other announcements for upcoming events. Okay, thank you, Frank, for coming. So next we have our community concerns and public testimony. This is 2 minutes each for testimony regarding issues not listed on this agenda. So we do have a rather, well, our largest couple is going to be about the primary urban development plan, and then also about the Alawai Canal flood mitigation. So we have those coming up, and I think if we save our questions for those specifically, that would be useful. It is my intent to get through all of our elected officers' reports, and as I was mentioning earlier, if we can, you know, Margaret says blah, 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 and you agree with it, then just say, I agree with Margaret wholeheartedly, so we can save some time and move on, unless you have another salient point. That would be most appreciated. With that said, are there any folks in person who would like to testify on community concerns other than those on the agenda tonight? Anybody there in person, Dylan?
No.
Okay, and online I see Kei Ishii. Go ahead.
Hello. Yes, thank you. I wanted to bring up the issue of Pahoa Ridge because this morning, the HHFDC approved, they gave their approval for they gave the green light to Pahoa Ridge, and I'm very concerned about it. I'm assuming that it's going to go before the city council in January, possibly. And it's my understanding that there is no St. Louis Kapahulu Neighborhood Board meeting in January. So I just wanted to alert the board and the neighborhood that this could be coming up before the city council in January.
Okay, thank you for that. I know we've had meetings on that before, and it's been an area of concern for many residents. Do you know when the meeting schedules will be?
No, I don't. And I don't know if it will be, I'm assuming that it will go to the city council in January, but I'm not sure. And I'm very concerned because it's going to affect our neighborhood severely. Traffic, safety, health, and the 211-story building on this particular property, this small property. It is just so inappropriate and just really poor urban planning, and just an insult to our neighborhood.
Okay, well, when you find out the dates of that, will you let us know, and we will put it and come back next month as well. And I imagine that our planning and zoning chair has some information about that as well, because I see her with her hand up.
Okay, thank you. And then I'm sorry, how do I get the word out to you folks if there's no meeting next month?
We will have a meeting next month, as far as I know, unless we
sorry.
get the agenda out. Yeah, we don't take a break because we are a smart board. So many things happen in December, and that's when things slide through. So we may be the only board that you actually get to announce this for. But thank you for staying involved with that.
Thank you.
Michelle, is this going to be about this issue, or shall we wait for that until the presentation time? Because I realize that Dina Wong is for the Planning Division Branch Chief at DPP is not going to be here tonight. So do you want to save it until then if it's about that, or did you have another topic?
No, actually, I'd just like to respond to the question. We don't have Pahoa Ridge on the agenda tonight. And I did observe the FDC meeting this morning. They did approve the application for exemptions for the proposed development. They have a lot of hurdles to go through following that. The first one is, of course, the City Council, and Calvin Say's committee will be taking this up very quickly, and I noticed that the first committee meetings are between the 9th and 11th of January. And then, depending upon the result and the true consideration of the community's concerns, if it is held in committee, we will have more time. If not, we will have to be very prepared to go straight to the full city council with this issue and as many of the community as possible. We had a lot of conversation at the Planning and Zoning Committee meeting that was on another subject about this. There were so many concerns, but I'll hold that for my report later in the meeting.
Okay, thank you. And do you know briefly if this is a 201H project?
Yes, they applied for the 201H 38 exemptions from statutes, ordinances, and administrative rules. So they could go forward with their development without much oversight. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I think what happened last year with Kuile Place was exactly the same thing. It went in very quickly. It went out of a committee immediately and was adopted by the city council. So I would encourage people to follow this very closely if you are interested. Thank you for that, Ms. Ishii and Michelle.
It's
Are there-
exactly 1 year since the Kobayashi 400-foot tower was approved with 1,000 units that will be merging traffic at the same location on Deweyla Avenue.
Right. Well, are there other folks in person or online who have community concerns or issues not on the agenda? Okay, then if that being the case, we are making record time. Let's not jinx ourselves. So because we had a presentation listed here about the primary urban center development plan revisions proposed by the Department of Planning and Permitting specific to Kapahulu, I think that we can well, I would like to hear about that now, from what the Planning and Zoning Committee discussed, because you did discuss this, did you not? Michelle, I think this would be an appropriate place to talk about this.
Well, the main thing is the committee met on the 11th. We had 12 attendees. That's the record number for a committee because of the issues with the changes for Kapahulu that are being proposed by the Department of Planning and Permitting. I did speak with Dina Wong. She said now it's out of their hands and it did go before the Planning Commission, and I simply resubmitted the report that had been sent to the FDC, and I'm sorry, it did go to the Planning Commission and I submitted individual testimony. Some of the testimony was not received. There were questions asked. Online testimony was given. There were 2 commission members who were very concerned. They didn't receive the testimony. They received sort of a summary presentation from DPP, and they voted to defer this hearing because they wanted to review this a lot more carefully and hear from a lot more people. And there were 2 commission members who were very astute about this. And so they did vote to postpone the hearing, keep the hearing open. And the earliest date they could find a slot to resume the hearing is on February 7th. And so at the committee meeting, we drafted a resolution, and in this resolution is input from almost everyone who attended in various locations of the resolution. It was posted on the board's meeting materials drive for all board members to review. And it has two attachments, one from the Kapalua Community Plan, the 2001 plan that was community-based, that the community was heavily involved in, the Kapalua community, and our board districts were heavily involved in this, and a map of that, the zoning in that plan that was actually a city consultant did for the city. It shows the zoning at 25 to 30 feet on the Diamond Head side of Kapalua Avenue. And of course, it shows part of the Diamond Head Special District, which has a 25-foot height limit. And that's the lower part of Kapalua Avenue and the golf course. And then there is the apartment mixed use with residential on the west side, adjacent to Kamakihi High School, which is also in the Kapalua district. And we learned at the committee meeting that the alma mater, Kamakihi High School's alma mater highlights the views of Diamond Head. And the views of Diamond Head are very important. Also, Tommy Waters submitted testimony, our council member, and he advocated lowering the density increase proposals made by the Department of Planning and Permitting in their proposed revisions for Kapalua. They had also proposed 5 to 6-story multifamily buildings between Kapalua Avenue and 6th Avenue, where the zoning is 25 to 30 feet, single family homes. And I think that our council member did take a hard look at this and made some very worthy recommendations to the Planning Commission. So on February 7th, we will have another opportunity. And we drafted this resolution that is very descriptive of the Kapalua district and the concerns that have been expressed, and the request to retain the views of Diamond Head and the single family zoning on the Diamond Head side of Kapalua Avenue.
Okay, and we will take up that resolution here in a few minutes. And I'll give I'll drop off a copy of that resolution in the chat here for those folks that may not have had a chance to look at that. And again, just for people who are following this, and it's quite confusing because there's so many overlapping agencies and jurisdictions and whatnot, but this document of the Department of Planning and Permitting primary urban, it's not cores, it's center, isn't it? This is a guiding document that is not really allowing specific, it's not permitting specific buildings, but it's saying these types of buildings, structures can go here. Now that's on top of a zoning issues and land use ordinances as well for folks. But this is a baseline document that gives a map for the future of what would be allowed. Is that a correct understanding?
Yes, it is. There are different levels for planning. There's the general plan for the island of Oahu that has certain guidelines. Then more detailed guidelines are in the development plans and the sustainable community plans for each of the areas. There are only 2 development plans, one for the primary urban center from Pearl City to part of Kahala, and the other, I believe, is Eva development plan. Then every other region of the island has sustainable community plans. And if you'll remember, our board passed a resolution for the entire district to be classified under sustainable communities. Our residential St. Louis Heights, our residential and preservation area of Diamond Head, as well as the historic small business corridor and restaurant corridor of Kapahulu Avenue with historic building designs, and the residential areas of Kapahulu. So we heard that our council member was communicating with DPP on this, and we have yet to hear back on the status of that. We may have to perhaps resend the resolution to those people who are supposed to be working on this.
Okay, and I did put again the resolution in the chat. You click on it and then find the one that just says for December of this month, which is our typical Google Drive for this board. And there was nothing new in here that we haven't discussed many times on the board as well. Go ahead, Michelle.
I just wanted to mention that in addition to the general plan and the development and sustainable community plans, there are then the zoning ordinances and regulations, which are far more specific as to which areas have what types of buildings, how high, how dense, and that is the next step from this development plan that DPP is proposing revisions to. And if those revisions are accepted by the city council, then we will have a very different character in Kapahulu's future.
Mhm. Right. And that's for those that are maybe a little bored or not interested or don't understand this. It's what this document does is it allows some dramatic changes in our neighborhood for the future. And so we may want them, we may not want them, but I think a lot of the contentions, we really haven't had a robust discussion about this, including to the point where, you know, the DPP could be sending out notices to people and letting them know your property may be radically rezoned. That's not something that's happened yet. And it's something that should be brought up at the fact that the Planning Commission delayed this. I was rather shocked and delighted by it, but just shocked that they did that because they realized there's some work to do on this. And on top of all of that, just as a zinger, the 201H stuff, that just comes out of the sky like a lightning bolt, and it just can obliterate almost everything else. So just there's a lot of different layers here. It's complex. You got to be willing to learn, but it's well worth our time to do that. And I thank you for that, Michelle, and your committee and the meeting and all the folks that came to the committee on that. So I will let people read that if they haven't had time. Are there other questions or comments that we want to talk about the primary urban core right now and this development plan? Okay, then seeing none. Actually, I don't know. Yeah, Bruce, go ahead.
Yeah, again, I've said this many times before, but I do not want Kapahulu, Diamond Head, St. Louis Heights looking like Makiki. And that area is inundated with 5-story, 8-story, 20-story condos. And, you know, basically Punch Bowl is buried. And that's what will happen to Diamond Head. It'll just get buried under all this development. And I don't want Kapahulu to look like that. And so that's my comment.
Thank you, Bruce. And Mr. Decker, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did have a question about this. So where does what's it going to look? What's Kapahulu going to look like if this goes through? Is it going to be, as Mr. Wong said, more more core-like instead of more urban center? Is it going to disenfranchise the neighborhood? Will it bring more Waikiki, more of Mauka? Can someone specify for me exactly the timeline? Who proposed this, and what was the agenda for? Was it for developing Kapahulu? Is that what I hear? Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield my time.
Thank you. I'm going to defer to Michelle on this. If you can give us a brief synopsis of what Mr. Decker just asked for.
Yes, Board Member Decker, they want to increase the density, they want to increase the heights, they want to put in something called missing middle housing along, they want to do mixed use residential over the shops along Kapahulu. They are proposing to convert all the single family homes, the historic residential area of Kapahulu, into multi-level residential buildings. And so some small houses will be between these buildings and their neighborhoods will be completely changed. Their views will be blocked, and a lot of families have lived on these single family parcels through at least a couple of generations, some of them. The younger members of the family have inherited these properties, so they have a place to live. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to afford to live there, or probably on this island. Then on the other side, they want to have higher density, larger, up to 8-story, 6 to 8-story buildings along Kapahulu Avenue from Date Street to Market City to Kamaki High School. It's complete redevelopment allowance. They're not saying that the properties have to be redeveloped. When developers come in and offer to buy them, and the owners, if the taxes have gone up so high they can't pay their taxes anymore, which we see happening, the developers will take over and they will completely reconstruct and redevelop these areas. We're trying to maintain the reasonable growth within the existing zoning, improve some properties, some commercial properties. You need to read the resolution to show where the community is coming from on this. There was quite a bit of detailed discussion, but we don't know. I mean, it's just opening the door to these sorts of things. This primary urban center development plan specific to Kapahulu, which they're calling a focus area. Why is it a focus area? Because it's near Waikiki. It's near the Kobayashi 400-foot proposed tower with 1,000 units. They want to change Kamaki High School, the field. They want to put in housing there. We don't know what's going to happen or when it's going to happen. We're just trying to express how the community feels about keeping Kapahulu, Kapahulu.
Thank you. Yeah, Dan, I for all members, there's the primary urban core development plan is available online by the city, and then also the resolution that we have here tonight, which is completely consistent with what we passed here in the past as well. And thanks, Dan. And Patty, you had a comment or question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Good evening, members and all those in attendance. I just wanted to commend your committee for bringing this up, and also wanted to urge you to pass this resolution because as I've seen firsthand myself, I attended the ICJF meeting this morning regarding Pahoa Ridge, which is on Old Railai Road. And I have seen how developers use this 201H process to get past everything, bypassing all the zoning requirement. And because of the governor's agenda, which is who appointed most of the member on this HHFDC board, and in my opinion, most of them are pro-development. So almost all project that goes through will pretty much get approved. So it's a pretty dangerous precedent to have that, not having this resolution might not protect your neighborhood, but it's better than not saying anything and just let them take over all of our community and neighborhood and let them build whatever they want. So I really recommend that this be passed. Thank you for the time.
Thank you, Patty. And Daisy?
Thanks, Chair. I also understand this resolution is important. It's not only our community, it's all the other neighborhoods that have character. I spoke at the commission, planning commission meeting this month, and I mentioned you can build, but don't forget, you need to take care of the infrastructure. You don't take care of infrastructure, the next person is going to end up with all the problems that you created. So a lot of things they never talked about sewer upgrade, nothing about water upgrade, nothing about any other road construction. All they're doing is making the roadways more narrow to make bike lanes instead of getting motorists to flow of traffic and pedestrians. So this is a very dangerous precedence that the DP plan is doing. So we want to keep the character for neighborhood. So that's something that they really need to talk and think about because it's going to affect all other communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy. Are there any other comments? Yeah, go ahead, Bruce.
Yes, like I brought up in one of the meetings, like Proposition 13 in California, basically we can do something like that, where we have kupuna type housing, where if you live on generational property or you've been there for a long time, maybe your grandparents didn't own it, but you've owned it for a couple decades now. Basically, if it's your primary residence, the property taxes should be based on what you purchased the property for. My grandfather purchased it back in the 1920s. Now, I'm not saying go back to the price he paid for it, which was, I think, about $700. But basically, go back to something that's more feasible where we can afford the property taxes instead of being taxed 10, 15, 18% a year more on our properties. And basically, they'll price us out of the properties where developers can move in and build their high towers. And I want my neighborhood to stay the way it is. It took me a long time to come back here. And so that's, to me, we should push for something like that, where if you're in a primary residence, you live there, basically your property taxes should be based on what you purchased your property for, and not be based on the speculative properties that go for sale all around you in our area. And that's, to me, that's my comment. And I wish we could get the city council to go with something like that.
Well, I suggest maybe we have our city councilors here and representatives from the state government that maybe we can talk to later offline about making some measures towards that effect. Thank you, Bruce. And Margaret?
One of my main concerns, our main concerns, are that with all of these approvals, they don't really take into consideration the traffic congestion. It's, I mean, there's no way we're going to be able to get around. I mean, I don't ride a bike, but it's crazy. And if they start, I think you were the one that pointed out that originally they had said that they wanted 100,000 more units. Well, they just wiped that out with Koile. And I mean, Kapiolani's already coned off back, everything. And if they close start working on that Alawai plant, that's gonna, I mean, there's no parking, cars don't have a plan B. And, you know, all different communities need to get around to go to work. It's just, you know, I think on the one plan, I think it was, I'm not sure which one it was, Pahoa Ridge, I think. They had, did a traffic study when the pandemic was on. It's like, you know, it's crazy. Anyway, that's my thought on it. Just traffic is a big problem. And if you start redeveloping along Kapahulu, it's just going to ruin the neighborhood.
Thank you, Margaret. I'd actually like to take this resolution out of order from our agenda and take it for a vote now, since we have discussed it and it gets it out of the way. I don't think that there's any issue with that. I don't think we're trying to hoodwink anybody by pulling this forward one item in front of the Alawai issue that's coming up. So I would be happy to entertain a motion to pass the resolution or to consider the resolution for passage.
I'll second that.
Well, why don't you first it and then I'll get a second from there.
Chair Winston, there's a member of the community, I believe, that wants to weigh in on this.
Okay, certainly. Hang on a second, Dan. Yeah.
I'm Margot Ige. I came because I am hoping that the board and the community understands that this resolution is not just some bunch of typed stuff with strange names in it, like primary urban core development, whatever. This is what you've heard the small voices say, even Bruce Wong. Everyone who has heard about this for quite a long time has seen that someone is attempting to turn Kapahulu into an adjunct to Waikiki. They are looking for spreading the low rise, the attractions. We saw the Top Golf projects try to go in at the corner of the golf course and bring people in from Waikiki. We see a large apartment building across from that at the corner of Leahi and Kapahulu. We see the attempts to put commercial development in from Kapahulu on Charles Street over the years past. We have seen, and now it's been codified into this rather large, rather strange, fully shaded in yellow, shaded in green, with very obscure terms like blah, blah, and blah, blah that have nothing to do with zoning. I believe that unless we ordinary people from the community get it through our heads that this is us, this is third and fourth generation single family homes from Montserrat to Kapahulu. Montserrat has already got some commercial development that's causing problems into the community toward Kapahulu. Eva of Montserrat is being disturbed, and there are large, giant houses being built up there that are not residential properties. So please, board, if you come to a vote, remember that this is not more about money than it is about us people. Thank you.
Thank you, Margot. And with that, I would... Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would like to make a comment about this very briefly. I
Sure.
attended the meeting this morning as well on Pu'ulei Ridge, and it was obvious to me that the board had their mind preset. They weren't really listening to any input, and I don't think that they paid any attention to the testimony, written or in person. That was my general observation.
Okay, well, hopefully they will pay some attention to this resolution if we pass it, and I will taken a, now I'll entertain a motion to take up this resolution for passage.
I move that we take we take a vote on the resolution.
Okay.
Second that motion, sure. So was
Thank
that a
you.
motion?
Yep. Thank you, Dan. I let's do a roll call vote. Then if you would call the roll. for us.
Excuse me, Chair.
Is this
I
okay
have
to
a-
do? Yeah.
I have a
Okay.
discussion
Sorry.
on
Go ahead,
this
David.
motion.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Just any discussion? Sorry.
Yes, I understand a lot of people don't want any additional housing to be built in the Kapahulu area. But I am more concerned about the crisis we have now with homelessness and the lack of affordable housing. And so to allow the owners of the single family houses to the east of Kapahulu, if they want to build larger houses, then I think they should be able to, and that would help help our housing situation. I mean, especially if they can't fit their family or extended family in their single family house anymore. I think I know nobody likes change, but I don't like how our neighborhood has changed over the last year with these increases in the homeless and the lack of affordable housing. The prices have gone up so much. I think really, basically, the only solution is to allow property owners to build larger houses if they want to. Thank you. So therefore, I oppose the resolution because I approve of the plan, which allows for larger houses to the east of Kapahulu. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Matson?
Yes, as long as we're in discussion, this isn't a matter of putting an ADU onto an existing home or adding something else, more rooms to a house. There are single-story homes that could be rebuilt into two-story homes on the same zoning, the same 25 to 30-foot height limit, and the same lot density. What this is, and I think that Board Member Budel may not understand this, as many, including our chair, have already discussed, this is a matter of redeveloping single-family residence lots, whether they're 2 stories or 2 or 3 generations living there, the families, redeveloping into multi-story, multi-residential apartment buildings. Now, if you would like to have an apartment building, a multi-unit residential building next to your home, well, you probably live in one now, but it's on the other side of Kapahulu Avenue. But those who have the single family properties and have had them for generations on the east side of Kapahulu Avenue will be boxed in their homes. And I think that perhaps Winston has spoken very well on this, and he might add something to the discussion because he will be directly experiencing this. Our chair.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and I appreciate Secretary Boydle's comments, and I think that it's that this document can be easily conflated to say, well, what about whataboutisms? What about the homeless? What about skyrocketing prices? And there will never be enough housing in Honolulu. It will always be expensive. we will never be able to build enough here, but and it's not talking about the multifamily homes where it's, grandma and grandpa and the kids and, the auntie. That's not what this is aiming at. As Michelle said, you could rebuild with an ADU or maybe, add a second story. This is about wholesale changes to the look and feel of a neighborhood. That's what's really at heart of with this issue, and the fact that we haven't been. I think Mr. Decker asked who is this for? Who asked for this? Well, I don't think anybody did. I think this was the Department of Planning and Permitting, and if they had come here and said, "Do you want this?" That might have been a different issue, but we're not seeing that, and I don't think we've seen that. So, I don't think we can conflate the issues, although I totally appreciate the sentiment that we need affordable, good quality housing for everybody. That is certainly, nobody is against that. It's just about in the right place, in areas that have maybe already been affected by this, like Makiki, Moiliili, Kaka'ako, Ke'eaumoku, or even and do we want to be Ke'eaumoku, because it rapidly changes into something like that. So that's just what I have to say about it. But I think we've talked about this issue many times, and this is just a resolution, just expressing our concerns about this before it goes back to the Planning Commission. And if there's no one other discussions, then just
I have a question. This is Member Knight or
go ahead.
Angie. It's
Yeah.
Angie. I have just a question, because the way that it is written, I know that we're really emphasizing the community concern for 1 or 2 story buildings. The way that the Kapahulu plan is written, Michelle, I'm assuming you know this answer because I have not been able to read it. Is it permitting up to 6 stories without like appealing for an exemption? It's only up to 6 stories, correct?
No, it's in the resolution, the height limits for each area. 60 to 80 feet along Kapahulu Avenue. It would be 50 to 60 feet on the Diamond Head side of Kapahulu Avenue, all the way to 6th Avenue. And that does not include the equipment on top of the multi-unit buildings, like the air conditioning. That's another, say, 10 feet, sometimes 20 feet on the
Is
larger
60 feet how many stories on average?
There's not an average. There are designated areas for designated types of increased density.
6
Kapahulu
stories, I think, is
Avenue,
what you're asking.
again, may I clarify? Again, along Kapahulu Avenue, you have 40 to 60 feet, and there is one building that is 80 feet. That's the tall building next to Safeway on the Malka side. And they are proposing that all of Kapahulu become 60 to 80 feet. 80 feet. 8 stories, I believe. And
Point of information, Mr.
it is
Chairman.
now, I have the floor. It is now 40 feet from Date Street to Alawai is the height limit. Also, the height limit is now 25 to 30 feet between Kapahulu Avenue and 6th Avenue on the Diamond Head side, all the way down to Alawai Boulevard. They want to change that to 5 to 6 stories, multi-unit, residential, all the single-family lots. The other side between Date Street and Kaneki High School is mixed. It's already apartments, condos, and single-family homes. What you'll be looking at is the same thing on both sides of Kapahulu Avenue.
Okay. Thank you. I just wanted to clarify, as someone who lives in an apartment complex that has nearly 9 stories, I just wanted to clarify, because I think in our discussion today, it really makes it sound like we're inviting construction for 10-story pluses. And that's really not what the current urban core plan has. So thank you for that clarification.
It's a radical, it's a proposal for radical change, yes.
I have
Point
one
of
more.
Dan? Go ahead.
One more
Sorry,
comment.
Dan. You had a point.
Yeah, I live right where Member Matson was speaking of. It's called Fairway House. And I just want everyone to know that with these tall high rises, what you get is you get a lot of bulk items on the side of the road. Okay, so we're talking about 100 plus, more residences are going to throw their bulk item pickup is going to get uglier, if not already is ugly. So, and I just want to point for the record, I disagree with David on the board. I do understand the need for housing, but at what cost? Not for the cost of Kapahulu. This is one of the last towns on the island that's old school, and people like that charm. And if we go ahead and just ruin that, well, there's no reason for me to be on the board anymore because it's the last piece of old school charm we have left. So I just would like to urge the other board members to, it sounds like we want to vote to prevent more of this permitting from happening, and I would, employ everyone to really think about where we live and what kind of conditions we want to experience. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Michelle.
Thank you.
Listen,
yeah,
I have
Bruce,
one more comment.
Go
Yes,
ahead.
I mean, this is something that hasn't come up. But when I look at Makiki and these homes that are right next to these 6-story, 8-story, 10-story, 20-story buildings, and basically in Kapahulu, we've been sold to put solar on our homes. Now just imagine my home is surrounded by like a 10-story, an 8-story, a 20-story building or a 5-story building. And now the only time I would get sunlight is in midday to power my solar panels. Because the rest of the time I'll be basically in shade. And so that hasn't come up. And so to me, it'll just, like the person before me said, it'll ruin our community. And we don't want that.
Bruce. And Miss Ishii.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Chair.
Chair. I did that by accident.
Okay. Is there
Chair,
anything else, in person? Oh, go ahead, Arlene.
Yes, this is Arlene Velasco. I would like to point out that in a lot of these discussions about homeless people needing housing, is the definition of affordability is, I believe, very unrealistic. The pricing, the mortgage that you would have to take out or have the amount of cash you would need to even get into these supposedly affordable housing are really out of the reach of most middle income people on this island. And I think that's something that really should be clarified with the DPP. What is their definition? What is the income level that people have to afford these affordable units? And from what I've seen and studied, a lot of these condo units that they're proposing, it's a handful of units that they claim are affordable. And that to me does not justify in a 1,000-unit complex and you have, even 20 units that are affordable. I mean, that's just ridiculous, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Well, if there is no other discussion, I would like to call for a roll call vote on.
Chair, can I
Yes.
ask for clarification? Margaret, you made the motion and it was seconded by Decker. I think your motion was to have discussion, but I believe your intent was to adopt the resolution as written. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Decker, do you still second that motion?
I do.
All right. We'll do a roll call vote. So just to clarify, the motion is to adopt the resolution as written. Allen,
Aye.
Boydell,
Nay.
Decker.
Aye.
That was a yes. Dan,
Correct, yes.
thank you. Hasina,
Aye.
Knight,
Abstain.
Mattson,
Aye.
Murakawa, Murchie,
Aye.
Velasco,
Aye.
Weitzel, Bruce Wong,
Aye.
Linda Wong, Welch.
Aye.
All right, the resolution or the motion passes with 8 ayes, 1 no, and 1 abstention. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for calm and thoughtful discussion on that. I realize it brings up a lot of issues, and we're not going to solve all the problems of the world here, but hopefully this will, contribute towards the city at least looking and saying, are we doing what we need to in the neighborhoods? Which brings us to another very large issue, which actually we're going to take a 5-minute bio break and we're going to reconvene at 7:30. So everybody go get your water or have your bio break, whatever you want to do. We're going to rejoin at 7:30. To order. So basically, as similar to Department of Planning and Permitting, or any city department, but especially on these issues of Alawai, we have asked repeatedly, and they have a standing invitation to come and explain this billion-dollar project now to an area that's going to be significantly affected, which is our area. And in lieu of that, I think we'll hear from some community representation where there was a meeting on Tuesday night at the Memorial Hall next to City Hall, well attended by a broad spectrum of folks about this very topic. And I think Dave Watase will give a presentation on the essential feeling of the people at the meeting. I was there, I did not detect anything different than what he will be sharing with us. I would like to ask that, because we've had this issue before, this is again sort of a rehashing of it, and we can ask Dave to be as brief as possible because there is no way that we're going to be able to go through a 3,700 page document, which is what this is based on, but it is, I can safely say, more of the same of what we've had before. However, I know Dave will touch on salient points here. I would like to finish up within a half an hour so that we have enough time for our good representatives and to deal with that and the other board business that we have. So with that, I will ask Dave to give us a presentation on the Alawai Canal Flood Mitigation Draft Supplemental Environmental Impact Statement. Thank you, Dave.
Aloha, Chair and board members. This is actually my first in-person presentation since 2020, pre-COVID. So I may be a little bit rusty. I thought I'd come here in person and be able to hug everybody, but nobody's here. Just a hand. Actually, there's about 20 people here. So it's good to see everyone who came out in person. I want to thank all of you for your service to our community, especially this time of the year and this holiday season. And I also hope that you'll have a wonderful Christmas and Happy New Year. It's kind of too bad not everybody's here because the last time I was here, after the lights were dead, and now they're all working. And I can actually see what I'm going to read. I'm a retired engineer, and I've been involved with this project since 2015. I've spent countless of hours on behalf of the community. With the help of many others, I spearheaded the effort to point out the flaws in the 2017 congressionally funded project that involved upstream detention basins, flood walls, flood pumps around the LOI. And this neighborhood board passed 2 resolutions to support that effort. So thank you very much, neighborhood board. The 2023 plan is not much different. They did eliminate the upstream detention basins, but this plan retains flood walls, which are now even higher. In the hundreds of hours of meetings with the Army Corps and the community, no one ever said, please build us a wall. I didn't hear anyone ever. 90% of the comments were really for ecosystem restoration. But the Army Corps is really about flood mitigation and solving the big storm or the big flood. Anyway, I'm really pissed off, even though may not show it. I'm really pissed off because I've had to spend all my free time from Thanksgiving to now to go through 3,700 pages of their draft supplemental EIS. In conclusion, this plan is worse than any of the other plans. And Winston, I can't go through 3,700 pages with this neighborhood board in record time, and I will do so. Basically, this plan is a $1 billion concrete project that further channelizes our most precious waterways. The flood walls do nothing to are not protected from high tides, tide surges, and sea level rise, which can render the whole project ineffective. In order for these flood walls to work, our interior storm drainage system around the LOI and adjacent to any of their proposed walls will have to be capped off and gated shut for several hours of the storm. This means big culverts, floodgates. For example, right here near the clubhouse, there's probably a 40-foot concrete channel that is used by Kapahulu, Diamond Head, and Kaimaki. That's going to be gated off. And I don't know. The old project had a flood pump there, and also had a flood pump down by the Waikiki Library. This time around, they said they're just going to do the induced flooding. So that's not in this $1 billion project. That may be an added expense later if this project goes forward. And there's many other culverts that are not accounted for on this plan if anyone takes the time to go through it. University Avenue at the very end, there's a 10 by 10 culvert. Austin's Ditch has another culvert similar to the one right next to the driving range over here. Makiki Stream, they're going to actually block it off, and they don't explain where the water is going to go. So this plan is not really thought through, clearly or properly by the Army Corps. And similar to the previous ones, that those kinds of flaws were pointed out to them, including the wall, which, we told them your wall isn't going to work. Well, they now came up with a wall that's like monster. It's like a monster wall. I want to go through the resolution paragraph by paragraph, and I'll summarize it. The first paragraph basically just describes the name and title of the project. Second paragraph describes the elements of the project, which is the detention basin on the Alwai Golf Course, concrete flood walls around Woodlawn Bridge up in Manoa, at the confluence of Manoa and Polo Stream around Kuali Road subdivision, Kamaki High School, the athletic field, and concrete walls complete around the Alwai Canal. The third paragraph of the resolution is the cost. It's $1.075 billion and 65 federal, 35 city and county. The fourth is basically the benefit, and it's $905 million. And kind of funny because the cost is more than the benefit. Yet when they annualize it, somehow it becomes 1.4, in favor of the project. I don't understand how they do their magic. The fifth paragraph basically just states that on the other projects, we had 16 resolutions from 7 neighborhood boards that basically weighed in on the project that was actually canceled. 6, we've had neighborhood board members from various neighborhood boards asking the Army Corps to give a presentation on their most recent plan, and they basically told them that they didn't have the available resources to do that. The 7th paragraph, or whereas, basically is to make it clear that anyone who reads this resolution knows that the Army Corps published the draft supplemental EIS on Thanksgiving Day, right? And they know that most of the neighborhood boards take off in December, and they won't have the time to digest 3,700 pages and weigh in or even pass a resolution on this project in time. So I do thank Chair Welch for taking the initiative to put this issue on the agenda even before the Army Corps gave their presentation, and even before we had time to really digest what this project was all about. The 8th one is nobody was notified, or the residents weren't notified, who are adjacent to the flood walls. And most of them don't know that the walls will induce flooding on their property. And the Corps is not going to, basically what they're stating is, and this is the responsibility of the non-federal sponsor, our city. Their responsibility is to acquire or condemn the needed lands. And what the Corps wants to do is structurally mitigate the flood damage. And they made an assumption that everybody's going to agree to that mitigation. And if they don't, the other alternative is to acquire the property or condemn the property. Yet these people are stakeholders, and they weren't on the distribution list for this draft supplemental EIS. The 10th is the city and county PIG in 2020, Tommy Waters and Kobayashi and Carol Fukunaga. They spent almost $700,000 to hire Oceanet to represent the community, to engage with the community, to develop alternatives that had engineering behind it and a cost estimate. They came up with a plan that involved underground tunnels that primarily took care of the waters from the upper watershed. The community basically, we were looking at a floodgate and a flood pump system. And we determined that together, the floodgate and flood pump could handle the lower watershed flood waters, and the swift tunnels from Oceanet could handle the upper watershed. And together, it was a very viable, workable plan that didn't require upstream detention basins and walls around the Alwai Canal. The other benefit of this plan would be if we had a tide surge, the canal would be protected. If we had sea level rise, the canal would be protected. And right now, anyone who lives around here knows that if we actually have sea level rise of about a foot, all our storm drainage infrastructure wouldn't work. And we would actually have to put a floodgate in by Alma Boulevard Bridge and pump out the water, or we'd have to build flood walls and have pumps at each storm drainage outlet. So I think this idea is getting ahead of the game versus the Army Corps plan, which is to build the walls, leave the canal open to the ocean, and it's just, if we have a big tide surge, we're going to have water coming into the canal instead of and the water won't exit until the canal becomes higher than the ocean. So to me, it just doesn't make sense. On the further resolve, 90% of all the meetings I've been going to, 90% of the comments and the feedback from the community has really centered around ecosystem restoration. Yet the Army Corps refuses to include it into this project. So we've put that request in this resolution. The other one was, we believe that all the impacted stakeholders, who are key stakeholders, especially if their properties are at stake, should be on the distribution list. And these include Kaimuki High School. They weren't, I went down there this week, and they weren't even aware of the project. Their athletic field is not the city's property. It's not federal land. They need to get permission and even find out if it's okay with the high school to turn their athletic field and build a 6-foot high concrete wall, on the school property. They didn't even ask them. Same thing with Iolani. They're also affected. The residents of Koali Road. And these engineers who designed this project are on the mainland. They come up with these ideas. They don't live here. So they'll draw a line and say, this is a wall, it's going to work. And we all know the Koali flood wall and the wall going up Palolo Stream is only on one side, and it's not going to work. And I'll get into that a little bit later. Okay, so pretty much that's what's in the resolution. Can we scroll to the next? Yeah, so right here, this is the backside of the handout that was given at the in-person meeting. I printed up all these handouts. I thought I was going to have a big crowd over here, and I forgot that we could do this online. So I didn't print the front side, but it had too much color on it, and I would have ran out of toner, so I skipped it. Okay, can you go to the next, scroll down? Okay, so their PowerPoint, which is not online yet, so I did a screenshot the other day. This shows the 50-year storm or flood. Okay, so on the left is with no project, and the right is with the flood walls. Okay, so kind of take a careful look at it, because Waikiki is like all dry, not a drop of blue. Okay, and Iolani School, Alawai Elementary School, Mo'ilili, Macaulay, the Ala Moana area, it's all flooded. right? $1 billion for a 50-year storm, not even a 100-year storm, and they protect Waikiki at our expense. Okay, and I don't get it, right? And it's actually worse than that because that water that they show is coming from the Mauka side, and it really, I don't think it takes into consideration that they're blocking off the existing storm drain system, because if they did, and 10 inches of rain hit Waikiki, Waikiki is going to flood too, and it should be all blue. Okay, but anyway, that's the Army Corps. Okay, scroll a little bit down. So this is their plan of the wall. It's actually has to be 5 feet setback from the original Alawai Canal wall, because if they go too close to the wall, the historic wall will crumble. So it has to be set back, and that 5 feet, they can't put trees there because it'll damage the wall. The root system will damage the wall. So they have to take out all the coconut trees, and by the promenade side, all the big trees are going to be eliminated, and they have to take out a parking lane. And I don't think there's enough space. I think there's about 4 feet maybe. Maybe they can plant some trees there, but it's really going to change Alawai Boulevard. And the cars and people on the Makai side of the boulevard, they're not going to be able to see the canal at all unless you walk up on the mid-level. Okay. Scroll down, please. Yeah, a little bit more. Okay, so you can see here where that little red squiggly up in the top is Woodlawn Bridge. They're going to put a wall up there. I think Manoa Neighborhood Board will deal with that one. The little L shape above H1, that's the Kuali Road, Palolo Stream Wall. And Kuali Road is really the same, it's flat. It's the same elevation as the old Wailai Road, right? And if you know, really up to the public storage side, it's that, and there's a recycling center that kind of jumps up in elevation on Wailai Avenue. But that whole area is lower than Kuali Road. And they're building a 6-foot high wall on Kuali Road. And that's not going to work. They got to build the wall on both sides of the stream. But, again, that's a flaw in their engineering. They don't know that because they don't live here, right? I mean, we'd pick it up, I think, right away. This diagram also shows you there's these little black X's, okay? And those X's are the bridges. So they're going to have to basically, because the water is going to be flowing over the bridge because it's 6 foot high, Makali Bridge, Kalakaua Bridge, King Street Bridge, Kapiolani Bridge, above the high school, Date Street Bridge, okay, Kuali, the little bridge by Kuali, and there's a pedestrian bridge by the public storage going across Palolo Stream. Those all have to be gated shut to accommodate this plan or make the plan work. Okay, if you look at that L shape by Kuali Road, okay, at the very top is Kaniwai Park. Kaniwai Park drains into Manoa Stream at the lower corner of the park, and that has to be shut off. So once the park becomes saturated, the runoff has nowhere to go. So on a big storm, where's it going to go? It's going to flood Kuali subdivision, everybody there. It's going to flood Pokulani School. In fact, some of St. Louis Heights goes through the park. When I was little, I used to look for crayfish and stuff in the stream over there. I went to Okolani School in the early 60s. Okay, so I know that area. I used to crawl in the storm drain system, but it's not going to work. I don't know what they're trying. And again, if you look at it, you can imagine Waikiki, the water has nowhere to go. And Waikiki actually doesn't flow. There's a few outlets that go straight to the ocean, but Waikiki basically drains into the canal. Okay, can you scroll down? Okay, so for you guys who want to do homework, some of our legislatures or city representatives, one page in the 3,700 pages, basically they say they think this plan's going to impact 70 structures. They anticipate 100% participation, that they're going to do their structural mitigate it, and agree with the Corps. I'll tell them it's 100% non-participation. People aren't going to do what the Corps wants to do to their private property. But they're making the wrong assumption here. Okay, can you scroll down a little bit more? Yeah. So at the very bottom, okay, real estate, lands, easement, right-of-ways, relocation is the city's responsibility and the city's cost. Okay, they're saying the conservative range for this is $124 million to $5.5 billion, and that only involves 70 structures. So guess what? That number is not in, needs to be added to the $1 billion project. You know, you got to read the fine print. Otherwise, we'll be surprised later on that, hey, why is the price quadrupled? Right? Why are we paying more than the Army Corps now? They only paid 65%. We paid a little, you know, it's like a bait and switch thing. We paid 35%, and we end up paying more than the Corps at the very end, because the stuff that we're responsible for, and even the design mistakes, we end up paying for it. So this is a bad plan all around. Can we scroll down a little bit more? Yeah, more. Yeah. So I also attached this. It's a drawing of the type of walls that they have. They have a J wall, which is the split level with the sidewalk on the top. They have a L wall, and then they have an I wall. The I wall has sheet piles every inch of the wall, and then a concrete wall on top of it. The I wall is impermeable. The J wall is permeable underneath. And the crazy thing is they're putting the J wall along the existing canal wall, and the substrate is all porous coral. The old wall is porous. So when you go above ground, it's like building this wall on a sponge, and the water is going to push through here and there along this great expansive wall. Okay, can you scroll down? This is an example of the L wall, and there's 40-foot sheet piles every 4 or 5 feet. It's a 12-foot wide footing, 6-foot high wall, monster wall. This wall would have had to be built in this fashion in the 2017 FDIS, and they had a little bitty wall that was really cheap to make the price cheap. In reality, this is the kind of wall that would have been built, and it would have costed over $1 billion. And they priced it at $345 million. Okay, scroll down, please. More. Yeah. Yeah, so this is the J wall, the one along Alawai Boulevard, right? So you have like 2 little walls, but again, there's 40, 50-foot micro piles spaced out every 4 or 5 feet. Okay, and it calls for tens of thousands of these micro piles along Alwai Boulevard, tens of thousands. Okay, please scroll down. Okay. This is an eye wall, which what they anticipate to put in place along Manoa Stream on the opposite side of Kamaki High School, you know, kind of where Ku'ule project is, right? But you know, Ku'ule is further back, right? But in that area between Kapiolani and the stream, Kapiolani Boulevard and the stream, you want to put sheet piles down every inch so it's impermeable. They're going to anchor it with steel rods that they're going to shoot underneath people's property. There's going to be a solid wall. People won't be able to access their little garden in the stream anymore. They won't have a view of Diamond Head. They won't have a northeast trade wind breeze. And their property, when it rains, the Army Corps is not going to put little pukas in this wall so your property can drain to the stream. I don't know. You know, they didn't think that far ahead. But this is their engineering. Scroll down. Okay, that's it. So that's the 3,700 pages summary, the things that I thought were important that I pulled out. And I really appreciate it if this board can again support the resolution. And by the way, thank you for passing the previous resolution. I've lived up St. Louis Heights over 60 years. When I could see the Waikiki Beach, there were only a handful of hotels. And in the 60s, 70s, Waikiki built out. We lost the view of Waikiki Beach. I still have a view of Diamond Head. We used to have a view of the sunsets. And I think half of St. Louis Heights right now, they can't see the sunset unless you're really high up. And that $1 million sunset view got stolen by the luxury condos. To see Ku'ule project, I mean, there's some big condos over here already, but this one is going 400 feet. I thought that was only reserved for the TOD locations where the rail was. There's no rail that goes to Papahulu. There's no rail that goes to, that area, and yet they're getting exemptions to go up 400 feet. So Bruce, Margaret, I'm all with you guys. I got your backs. We need to group together and, protect Kapahulu, because if not, like you guys said, the developers want to come in here and they want to change it because Waikiki doesn't have the space. There's plenty of space for affordable housing, a lot of space. Space in Kapalama around the rail. That's what it was designed for. Go 400 feet around every rail station, but stay away from Kapahulu, stay away from this area. And Kaka'ako was supposed to be where we do all the affordable housing, but somehow that got forgotten, right? And now it's all gone like luxury condos with a little sliver of affordable housing, which is not affordable to anybody. And I know my kids are in their mid-20s and mid-30s. They're working hard to try to stay here and make a living. So I get it. And I think we locals who have been here for generations, we have to put our foot down and band together and fight this thing. So thank you very much for the previous resolution. Thank you for passing it. And I hope you pass this one too. Mahalo.
Thank you very much, Dave. And you put in an enormous amount of time in this. Obviously, you have a terrific understanding. We wish that the Corps and the city had come every single month for the last, 5 years, maybe 7 years. but they haven't, and that's part of the problem. You can't even if if the project as they designed it is the best thing since sliced bread, people need to understand this. If there's a wall to be built behind your home at Kaimuki High School, or a berm, or whatever it's going to be called, people need to know that. They need to be informed of that. They need to be engaged with that process and all the other aspects of this. So nobody wants anybody to flood. Nobody wants a project to fail. There's ways that we can do this, that it's not an either or. We can build something that's appropriate and take into many considerations that the community was able to represent. And I would encourage people to look at the Olelo taping of that show. I'm sorry, of the presentation on Tuesday night. I don't know when it's going to come out. If somebody has information about that and wants to put that in the chat. But at this point, this is sort of a reiteration, like Dave said, of what we've heard before, but a little bit different now. We, in the interest of time, maybe people can keep their comments short, but basically we have a resolution before us, as Dave just went over. And I see there's some questions about it, and I see Ian Ross. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chair. I want to reiterate the points that you and Dave shared. Since Dave is here, I'll say I received your request to talk to our neighborhood board and consider it approved. Our neighborhood board will be meeting after, I'm sorry, I should go a little back a little bit. I am the chair of the Makiki Lower Punch Bowl Tantalus neighborhood board. I was very happy to see so many familiar faces at this meeting. I won't belabor the point about the impacts to Makiki on this, but I will add that the leadership that we're seeing from your chair, Dave, and others is admirable. The community is coming together around some really common sense approaches. And in my capacity as chair, I'll be reiterating a previous resolution we passed partially at the request of Dave related to this project and the need for public input. So I just wanted to raise that. Your board is not alone in your concerns. Your voice will not be alone in the dark when you raise it. And thank you so much for your continued leadership, Chair Welch.
Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight. And it's good that we know what each other is doing, because, it's like you just said. I see Laura, you want to go next?
Yes, let me just share the same screen that Dave was, and I can make some more points. Just take a second. Okay, are you seeing this screen now?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, this is the alternate 5 hybrid one that they came upon. This is Dave's presentation was excellent. As a visual artist myself, and a person that really considers sight and the relation of human scale to that site and the interaction thereof, this is just so out of bounds. I'm going to point this. Can you see my cursor if I move it around?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first of all, there is no real reason to have anything more than no walls at all along this whole way, along here, Kaimuki side and everything else. Almost all of the banks are 10 feet above water level. And it just doesn't make any sense. What are you putting another 6 feet of concrete on there for? That as far as the overflow detention area, Kaimuki already has a lower section right here in the athletic field, or wherever it is, yeah, athletic field, and that can easily hold water. And this is the former pathway of the Pahoa stream, before it was Palolo stream, and it then flows out over here. And that's a natural swale that would just go right back into the flow, the general flow. Up here in Koali Lane, and by the way, I should say I'm a 43 resident here, and before that Kapahulu, and so I look out from my apartment to the Alawai Canal and to the stream, and I walk all of the area all the time. So I think I'm more familiar, certainly, than these people from the Army Corps. And the Koali Lane did have a flooding in about in the 40s or 50s, but they put in like a 2-foot little wall along the side. But it could easily just be raised up another 4 feet, but I don't even know why, because the other side is very high and this side is at least 10 feet down to the water level too. So they just don't even know what they're dealing with. As you go down here, you do have to have some little build up here, because Carol Fukunaga and the other senators and representatives that went out here to stand in the middle of this island here will tell you that it has to be repeatedly dug out, dredged out, if there's going to be any decent flow. And right now, the last one, the last so-called dredging that came in was like a little teaspoon scoop shovel. It just doesn't do the work at all. It has to go way, way down. And of course, other people in these public meetings that we had said, of course, the albesias and the upstream debris all has to be taken care of also. Over here, I would have no wall at all because it's going to flow into our grass green area. Only protect the berms around the schools, Alawai School and Iolani School, and let it flow in, and then it can flow out again or percolate into the actual surface. You put a wall in there, and all of the runoff that comes all the way down Mauka is just going to jam up everything down here completely. There's no way around it. Water just goes where it wants to go when it's going downhill. And then over here, they've put in more flood control and on the Waikiki side. And I'm going to just skip just 1 second to the other image that
Laura,
I have.
and
I just want to
Chair
put up the
Welch.
other image
Yeah.
and I'm going to be finished. Okay.
Yeah.
The time has been over 3 minutes.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
just going to put it up. This will take me 2 seconds if I can find it. Whoa, I cannot find it. Oh, no. Oh, okay.
It's okay. I think we got the idea.
1 second. Oh, I can't find it now. It was here before. Oh, a minute before.
Well, I think we'll move on right for that, but I appreciate your input on that.
Okay,
And
well, what I was, if I can just say what I was going to show is if you will go to Macaulay Bridge and look towards the ocean, you will see these nice, beautiful railings that are curved with arches in them. And the arches could be filled in, of course, but that's what should be done on the whole Waikiki side. Forget that stupid raised sidewalk and the whatever they're planning to do with the wall and certainly no faux rock. We need to keep our native stones. So I'm sorry that it didn't work out that I could show you this, but
Laura.
okay. Yeah. Okay.
Winston.
Thank you.
Chair Winston.
Yeah.
Chair Welch. Yeah, just to answer Laura's concern, what this resolution is really pushing are floodgates, flood pumps, and underground tunnels. If the Army Corps or even the city would do that, we wouldn't need walls. Everything would stay the way it is. And our current infrastructure, even if we had sea level rise, would work because we would work like Louisiana or Belgium. The canal would be the collection basin and everything would be pumped out into the ocean if sea level rise became true.
Yeah. And,
But our goal is
yeah.
not to correct the wall. Our goal is to eliminate the wall and go with an alternative that doesn't require walls. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, yeah, just more input and understanding, because the fact that we have to come here and digest this 3,700 page document is really, I mean, it speaks volumes to what we've been experiencing. Daisy, go ahead.
Oh, thanks, Chair. I just wanted to add, the pictures that Dave showed regarding the sidewalk along Alawai Boulevard, if you notice, it's much wider. And who wants to walk or run or bike or anything along a nice hot concrete sidewalk? There's no shade, nothing, no trees to or for anyone to walk, and look how long you have to go along the Alawai Canal. It doesn't make sense because do you want to walk on such a hot pavement, especially when it gets really hot? The other question was, part of it does show what the city wants to do with their complete street project on Alawai Boulevard. So if you notice, the sidewalk is so wide, and also the bicycle lane became of one full lane. So think of it, don't forget, the Alawai Bridge project, according to DTS Director Martin, is going to have bicycle lane because it's a complete street project. So don't forget, that means another lane of traffic will be gone, or maybe even no parking. So, and the mayor said the city can afford it and no raising of taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Daisy. Are there other comments in person? Like I said, this has been an issue that's come up before this board more than once. I believe we passed one of the last resolutions unanimously. At this time, just in the interest of time, I would entertain a motion to accept that we pass this, and then maybe go into discussion after that for a comment, Michelle, so that we can move along. No? Any motion to accept, to advance this resolution, pass this resolution?
I do. I do want a motion to pass this resolution as you discussed.
Dan, is there a second?
Second it.
That's
Margaret.
Margaret. Okay, and some discussion. Michelle, you've had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I realized everything was off. Yeah, I had comments and I do very strongly support this resolution. I believe Dave has an engineering background, so his work is extremely welcome on this. I know it took a lot of time. In the resolution, particularly, I support the underground tunnels. That would solve a lot of problems. The ecosystem restoration that has been avoided. That is one of the most important parts of the more comprehensive solution. And then, of course, the establishing an official committee advisory group that consists of members representing each of the neighborhood board communities of the Alawai watershed. That's been a missing link. And it's taken this long because there has not been a community advisory group. And it's only under the dictates of certain agencies that this is evolving. I would add to the last paragraph to send this to all congressional delegates, this resolution. And just as a major point, the Alawai Canal is on the Register of Historic Places. And yet the proposal is to build massive false rock walls, strip all the vegetation out, and create an uninviting hardscape. And I believe Daisy is correct. Nobody will want to go along such a heat reflecting area where there used to be such a beautiful view and a great recreational experience as it is today. So those are just a few of the reasons I support this resolution.
And so just to clarify, do we need to make an amendment to this resolution to add the congressional delegates being notified?
Yes.
I would like to do that.
It's
I
on there.
don't know
I
if we need
agree.
to make
It's
it,
on there.
I don't know if we need to,
I'll
I-
second that, Mr. Chairman.
you can just ask if there are any objections, I
All
guess.
4 of them are on there.
Mr. Wataste says that all congressional delegates are already listed on there.
I'm
I know.
sorry, I missed that.
So,
Okay, thank you.
Mattson, just for the record, would you then withdraw the proposed amendment?
I see the governor and the mayor. I don't see usually the congressional delegates are first. And,
If you look, I think it's H2, paragraph 17.
Page 2, paragraph 17.
is that the last paragraph on the page?
Yes.
Be it finally
Yeah.
resolved? That's
Yeah,
what
the
I'm looking
copies.
at. I see the departments.
Is this updated?
I see the mayor, the governor.
Michelle, you might be looking at an earlier draft. Mr. Watase here is showing me
Oh,
the
okay. Sorry.
revised. Yeah, so they're all labeled out.
All right, thank you.
So we'll withdraw that. Any more discussion?
I just want to point out that we are at 8:20.
Thank you, Arlene. Then with that, I would like to call for the vote, a voice vote or a recorded vote if we can.
All right. The motion is to adopt the resolution concerning the most recent Alawai Flood Risk Management Plan proposal as written, moved by Decker, seconded by Murchie. Allen,
Aye.
Boydell,
Aye.
Decker,
Aye.
Pacina,
Aye.
Knight,
Aye.
Madsen,
Aye.
Murakawa, Murchie,
Aye.
Velasco,
Aye.
Weitzel, Bruce Wong,
Aye.
Linda Wong, Welch.
I
All right, the motion passes with 10 in favor, no abstentions, and no nay. Thank you.
Okay, so we have I guess that could be called a unanimous passing. I want to thank Dave Watase for preparing this and for digesting that for us. And obviously, we all need to do our own homework in this. I encourage people to go onto the city's website where the plan is listed. And look at it for yourself and try and understand it yourself. Get involved. There is final comments that is due on this on, I believe, January. Well, it was released on Thanksgiving Day, if I'm not mistaken, 45 days, the 8th. Laura's saying the 8th of January to get comments in. We will have this forwarded in advance. And we will hope that the city listens and we can look at other alternatives than what's being currently planned. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody who's been involved in this issue, who's following it, and for all the issues that you follow. With that, I would like to so there is I would like to defer my own motion, which is concerning the construction staging area at the Alawai Golf Course. Essentially, I have been in touch with the folks that have the staging area and the construction equipment and all of that, and they have agreed to move the staging area at the entrance to the Alawai that's been there for many, many years. I still think we need a resolution next month. I will put it on for next month. They have agreed to move. They are out of compliance. They do not have a current permit, nor will one be reissued from my understanding of talking with DPP and DPR. Yes, Madam Matson.
I just have a question. You mentioned that they haven't gone, they haven't applied for an extension. Have they decided not to do that?
I'm not aware that they have, but I've been told that they won't get one. Now, I mean, I have a draft that just says we want you to leave and don't come back and clean up the mess on your way out. But I'm happy to wait a month on that. I don't think that anything hopefully would happen between now and then, but if it does, I think getting it in a month in time, they've said they're going to be looking for another place.
Okay, well, I was just concerned that there might be a time situation where they might get an extension and then it would be even more difficult. But if you feel we can wait, then that's.
I would hope that nothing happens between now and then, and we will take people at their word. And
okay.
So that's that. But I would like, in the interest of time, I do want to get onto our representatives who we have shrifted because of the city does not allow us to go beyond 3 hours. As Arlene said, we're at 8:23 now. I would like to move on. I don't think many of these folks are here for Ed cases. Yes, sir.
This is Vance from Wasu. So
hey, Vance.
I'm the one you've been talking to. So
Hi.
I just wanted to say, we hear you guys. We've been working with Winston here, and we want to make you guys happy. With that in mind, if you could just give us a little time. We've been moving out recently. I don't know if you've been keeping tabs on us, but we've been moving out, trying to downsize at the very least to show some good faith. with that in mind, we still are under contract by GLO. So we're
Okay.
still actively looking for those.
Okay. Very good. Well, we appreciate you coming tonight and your good faith of showing up.
Didn't
and
show up,
working
huh?
on this. Yeah. All right. Very good. Thank you. And I'll be in touch with you about that.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Then I will
Let's say I showed up.
Yeah, he showed up and in good faith effort. So thank you. And he's a good guy. He's been working right understands our issues, and that, yeah, it's an overstayed welcome for the company at this point. But that we'll put that to next month. As I said, we maybe not have a lot of officials reports, but here I'll ask if anybody's from Ed Case's office. 3, 2, 1. Mazie Hirono. Senator Schatz. Governor Green or designated representative. Then let's go to our legislators. Mr. Ihara, Senator Ihara. I saw him last night. I don't know if he is here or one of his staff members. Oh, there you are. Go
His
ahead.
staff
Senator.
was here. I'm Leslie Hara, from all of you. I'll run through my quick reports on the Alawai watershed flood project. I'm going to consult with some colleagues in the watershed to see if maybe we'll request a 30-day extension or review period. I'm sure it was really coincidental, but I'm sure they would care for the community and would want to give us a 30 days. So we'll check that out. Also, if they're not going to do a community advisory committee, then maybe I'll talk to my staff and maybe other Senate staff to see if we can help staff up a community advisory committee and we bring people together at the Capitol or someplace where we can simulate what would have been a community advisory committee if they did. So that's the second item I mentioned. My input on the project is that I believe that, well, my question is, what is the city's, eventually they'll have an environmental impact statement required, and in it, all of the environmental impacts need to be disclosed. And so I haven't seen yet a disclosure of the mitigations to the flooding caused by shutting off the stormwater drain system. Dave was mentioning that it would just be flooded. The rain will just not go anywhere. It'll be behind a wall. And so that is a consequence of the project. And that causes harm. So the mitigation, apparently, they haven't, is just to buy, either elevate all the houses or buy them out or something for 157, however many, well, up to $5 billion. But it still raises the question about how do you deal with sea level rise? I mean, because that's all the time. That's just not storm incident. And so when it's sea level rise, and they assume it used to be 3.5 feet, which is high, but what did they assume? 3.2 feet high above. And so that is clearly, so I guess the question is does the environmental impact statement disclosure document need to disclose the impacts? You don't have to wait 50 years to even a foot or 2 feet. What the mitigation of sea level rise is on the stormwater drainage system. I believe that needs to be disclosed in an environmental impact statement. Then that's on that subject. Another is the primary. I wasn't here when the resolution of primary urban center development plan. I believe that's so critical because I can see the plan because our area is infill. And it's more principle based. It's not all maps. We used to have road back maps height. So the idea is to have high rises in the area so that future ones can come back and infill, because if now you have something to fill, because you have these high rises. So, so Kool-Aid Place or Plaza Place and Poho Apartments, they do the trick. And then I can put on my pro-development hat, which I'm never a pro, but if you think that way, it's a really good plan. Because then it makes it easy to pass at the council. So I should say that on I'm not sure what is it, 201H, the state housing of it, which was passed in the 70s. And my understanding it was, and not to put pressure on the city council, I think they're doing the best they can. But from our point of view, it was the city council, because you're at this is zoning as to where those housings go. That's a zoning issue, and it takes 5 votes to block any zoning. So whatever any developer that would want to build something checks out to make sure they have 5 votes, and then they go to get the credits from the state, and then they come to the council, and then they so. That's for the Kool-Aid Place as well as Poho Apartments, Poho Ridge Apartments. Now that is, and I want to thank, who is it? Michelle, not Michelle, but I like criticism, because I don't get criticized enough. And I think a criticism was, why am I supporting Poho Ridge Apartments? And so I'll take the opportunity to say that I do not support it. In fact, it's way too high. And if I had anything to do with it, I would bring it lower, because I can see it's 100 foot higher. But given that, because it was approved by the state agency and now it's up for the council, the council could say lower it, but I think it's kind of too late for them. But it's their call. And so it's out of my hands as a state legislator, but I believe that I support, if the council is going to approve it, then I would like to have the mitigations be as best as possible. And I think that was interpreted as being pro the project. And so I wanted to mention that. Then that is it. Any questions? Probably spent more time than I needed to.
And cognizant of time, thank you. Is there anyone in person who had a question for the senator? Madam Matson?
Thank you, Chair Welch. Senator Tihara, thank you so much for being present. I did not ask the question. In fact, I looked at the summary that HHFDC wrote regarding Pahoa Ridge, and I believe you only had one comment, and that was Waialae Avenue needs a traffic signal. I'm sure you had other comments, but you've been very very clear tonight, and I appreciate that. And we would certainly welcome working with you on an advisory group for the Alawai.
Good. Thank you. I'd like to have that island-wide and statewide as too, so that we can have all of you brilliant minds all getting together and share it on all that you learn. We can have more of a network of community leaders who are knowledgeable, because you have to study. So I'm looking at a study group, modeling a study group, and have a lot of community study groups, because by the time the issues come up, we have to learn it. But if we already are skilled and understand it, that way the issue comes up, then we can deal with it, because it's usually a short time frame.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's a great idea. Patty, you have a question for the senator?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Hi, Senator Ihara. I did see your report on the Pahoa Ridge, and I want to thank you for your input. I just wanted to make sure I understand that. So you're saying that 201HC is a state policy, but the zoning belong to the city, so they have the ability to override it, reject it outright, or require modification. So they have the final say. Is that correct?
Yes. Now, except when the emergency proclamations come in and the governor can, which he did, and I think he reversed what he did, but his first emergency proclamation is right now, and it's always been this way, that the city has to approve. It's not override. The city, it has the right to approve or disapprove in the state law. And they've always, so the city has always made the last call. And they would be in communication with the state, because why would the state do all this work to send down to the county and they're not going to do anything? So, but so what was this? Second, did you have a second?
Yeah, what I was going to say is they could from what I understand, they could also require them to modify the plans, right? Just for the record, and
It'll be
made my
hard
testimony.
politically, I think, because of the forces at play, because it's sort of like, I've done it, where it comes at the end of the Senate, we're at the very last end. And if I don't like it, I vote no. But it's hard. I mean, it really is really hard. And I got to, have some compassion for those that have been put in a vice, because, at the very end, you're going to kill, you're going to hurt a lot of people. All the people who put in all the monies invested and all that kind of thing. It has an impact. And so that weighs on decision makers when it's brought at the end, where it's almost, you can't see the up or down, or they would have to say no unless you lower it 100 foot. Then wow, imagine what problem that'll cause. And I'm not in the city council now, but I feel for them on this issue.
Thank you.
Okay.
And I hope they do.
Just for the record, I wanted to say that, and it was on my public testimony. I'm not opposed to affordable housing or development. I actually requested for them to revise the plan to build a more sensible building with a lower density, and also have less parking space and less amenities that make it truly affordable and have more bike parking. I'm still hoping that the city council would perhaps give that some thought and build a building that can satisfy everybody and have some community support. That would be a win-win for everyone. But thank you again.
Thank you, Patty. And David, you've had your hand up.
Thank you. Yes, this is Dave Shimokawa from the UHSO days.
Oh,
Go back a long way.
Which where are you sitting? Where? He's in the right-hand corner or bottom? Oh, I can't barely see. I only see
Yeah,
your.
sorry, my chair is kind of low.
Oh, hi. Oh, I
hear your
recognize you now.
voice and your support for the project. Thank you. In terms of our objection from the community on Pohoa Ridge, your experience also from the Kaneohe watershed should help out in this Alawai Canal watershed. Because we worked together on the Kaneohe watershed many years ago with Mary Bitterman. So, but Pohoa Ridge definitely, your vote to or support to lower the height would be much appreciated. I was actually at the DOT, and I was a supervisor of the land use section that would have reviewed this project. And if it passed my desk, I would have chopped it up for the director to acknowledge. It is in a very bad location. It needs to be modified, and the social outreach and community outreach manner that the developer went through was not the best way to do it in terms of trying to isolate the other two neighborhood boards of Manoa and St. Louis, Diamond Head, and only deal with McCully. So I encourage you to participate in any way you can to give your voice as a private citizen. And good to see you again.
Okay. My
Thank
last
you.
comment, as a senator, I am interested in, I wouldn't do this way. I would have the community have community consensus about how we deal with affordable housing, keeping a sense of place and a sense of community, and homelessness, the rental housing community. So, but it's piecemeal, and it's what I call gladiator decision-making ways where the strongest win, rather than us all getting, we're all in the same community. We all get together and we tackle and balance out. We can be mature enough to balance how we balance the homeless population and the workforce that really need, all of these are genuine needs, but instead of balancing, they're like chopped up, and then you compete, and the strongest win generally. So my goal is to move to have community learn how to reach consensus, community consensus. And that would be, then we did that on the Alawai Bridge and the watershed meetings in September.
In the sense of expediting this, your formation, what timeline are you thinking of doing this? Because what I see is that all these developments are really being pushed heavily right now.
My take is this is all a holding pattern on the bridge. Oh, this is Alawai we're talking about. I'm sorry. Okay. What was?
Well, when do you propose setting up this?
Oh, I'm looking at for the Alawai watershed. That we have time there.
Okay.
But I think Pahoa Ridge, they must be down to getting close to decision. Sure. I don't track intimately on the city side. I did track the Kuile Place and found out that it was put the same thing. It was sent. It was during a period where the neighborhood board didn't meet. And we're in a similar situation here. So I would work with the city council on this, and they have they're in a, sure, what we call it.
Thank you. And Daisy, you have a point?
Thanks, Chair. Hi, Senator.
Hello.
I'm not against affordable rentals. It's just that the place that they chose is the wrong place. You're going to the freeway, you're going to cut over from the left lane to go all the way to the freeway. You have a very short time to get there. And I also asked the developers, what happens when you have accidents? How is the emergency people going to be able to get on from the other side? Because traffic will be all tied up. How can they access any emergencies? And I told them UH doesn't always have their gates open 24/7. So how are they going to access? And their comment was UH is fine with this project. So I don't know. I need to speak to a UH representative, say like Elmer, because they are just misleading the public to say that everything's hunky-dory, and it's not, because what happens with true emergency? How are the first responders going to be able to get through to these people? So you need to really assess the problem and think that it should go elsewhere. That's the wrong place for it. Thank you.
Okay, and thank you. And Michelle, I know you've had a chance with the senator, but I would like to move on in the interest of fairness for the other folks that have come tonight. We have about 15 minutes left. And so if you could maybe ask the senator separately about whatever.
Well, I'm not present at the location, and I just wanted to mention, because he may not have been at the meeting, that with the approval of with the HHFDC's approval of the developer's application for myriad development exemptions, they're targeting January as going to the city council with the zoning committee first, and then the full council, just as Kuile Place did exactly a year before. So it's on the fast track.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you very much for coming tonight, Senator. We appreciate it, and all of your good representation for us. We do have about 15 minutes left, and my apologies if we obviously are never going to get through our agenda ever. But is there anybody from Bert Kobayashi's office? And not Jackson Sayama? And Stanley Chang's office?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm here as a representative for Senator Stanley Chang. I just have a couple of updates to give, and if anyone has any questions, I can write them down and make sure that my supervisor gets them and we get back to you.
Okay, go ahead.
So just the December newsletter is out, and I'll put the link to everything in the chat. We also have the housing newsletter, which you can sign up for, and Senator Chang recently hosted a housing conference in November called The Rise of Social Housing in America, and you'll be able to find the link once I post it in the chat. And then the legislature is hiring for the 2024 legislative session, and if you're interested in applying, I will also leave that in the chat right now.
Thank you for that, Marley. And if there's any questions for the senator's office, since he's not here, maybe you could put them in the chat. And moving on, we have next our esteemed mayor's representative, Mr. Anton Krucky, who we very appreciate you waiting all day and then hearing everybody. But it's actually, it's important for all the representatives to hear this. And I know you hear it at every neighborhood board. We appreciate you slogging through with us, but it is the voice of the people, isn't it? So we really appreciate coming tonight and every night that you do.
Well,
Please
thank you,
start.
Winston. It's good to be here. Thank you very much for those comments. If I go all the way back to painting red at the intersections, I'll report that in, but just don't do your own red painting. You don't want to be in violation of the law by doing that, but I will report that in on those intersections, and Dylan and I can get together on the ones we want. Most of the feedback that we got from last meeting really had to do with the Department of Transportation, and the complete streets. And like I did with Laura, bringing Laura Thielen and Roxanne last time, so they could talk about their programs plus what they were doing on the entrance to the Isle of Wight, their beginning plans. Why don't I work on getting someone from Department of Transportation to come and join me at the next meeting, and we can kind of loop all your questions into that. That most of the questions that you had are particulars, but they all go back to the complete streets, and they'll go through that. They also wanted me to emphasize that even if they're doing road work or any changes on Kapalulu, that the buses will still pick up their service on the curbs as they do today. In the spirit of time, I won't go through too much, but I will say to look at the mayor's newsletter online. I think there's a lot of information there that relates to some of the conversations tonight. And also that the neighborhood commission office is hiring. So if someone is interested in participating at that level, please do so. So I'll kind of continue to try to bring resources to your meetings so you can answer your questions in particular. That's my update. Very quick update.
Very quick update. And we didn't do you justice, I'm afraid, but hopefully we got some big issues out of the way this month. And I see, are there any questions in person for our mayor's representative, Mr. Krucky? Ms. Matson, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Anton. We do always appreciate your thorough reports and your dedication, your willingness to help this board. I have a request, and that is that the managing director attend our meeting, especially since the openings at the neighborhood commission have come up tonight. We have a desperate situation with our board, and we would like to discuss this problem with the managing director who oversees the neighborhood boards. That's part of the charter under managing director. So please invite him. We all know him. We all respect him, Mike Formby, and we really need to have him join our board meeting next time. Thank you.
All right. I'll try to see if we could schedule that, work out the time for him to spot in on that. Good. Okay.
Thank you. And Daisy?
Hi, Director. Thank you for answering the questions. My question is, what is the update of the Kilauea Complete Street project? Because I looked online and I couldn't access that particular meeting on the 28th of November. For some reason, it was not being open to the public. So I need to know what the situation is. Looks like they might be going through with it. Thank you.
Okay, Daisy, on that, rather than wait till next meeting to answer that, why don't I run down that information and I'll send it in, and through Dylan and myself, we'll get that information in your minutes so you can get that information right away.
Okay, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Someone in person has a question?
Chair Welch, it's Dylan here. I did regarding Member Matson's request, just so we can inform the managing director, what was the topic of the concern? So that he's prepared to respond.
Just let him know. I'll contact him and tell him directly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, are there other questions for our dedicated director, Mr. Crucky, who we are really very fortunate to have people like you working in our city government, I have to say. It's always a pleasure to work with you, and you deserve a medal too. So if there are no other questions, Margaret, you have one?
Yeah, I'm just, with regard to Daisy saying Kilauea, that reminded me, I've worked at Kahala Mall for over 30 years. There's nothing wrong with Kilauea Avenue. It doesn't need to be changed. It's a crazy idea, and I just don't know, the streets that work for us, like the Alawai and Kilauea, should be left alone.
Thank you. And someone in person has a comment?
Chair again. So on that topic of the Complete Streets project, Daisy, if you could put your email or phone number in the chat, and we can try and contact you as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's just for me. Thank you.
And yeah, Director, I would say maybe painting that, if we get a green light on on painting some of these curbs or something like that, that might be a nascent development of sort of a Kokua Kapahulu type of thing, where we look at, where's this, the graffiti, what Margaret was saying was horrendous. We've got swastikas being painted in the neighborhood. I mean, it's just dreadful. So how do we get these painted out? How do we get our curbs painted better? Find out where we need more trash cans. This might be a nascent way that we could start something like that. Just a thought. Anyway, if there are no more questions for the director, I thank you very much, sir, for staying so late. We do have one more representative office here. And Merry Christmas to you, or Happy Holidays, whatever makes you happier. So, and it is from Calvin Say's office, Melvia. Oh, and I see Jackson is beamed in too, but we will take Melvia first since she's here.
Oh, hi. Yeah,
Hi.
just a short, Calvin was in the Kapahulu Moilili Lions Christmas parade tonight, along with the other staff members, but we'll have our January combined December newsletter with a lot of, I think this is his 4th Christmas parade so far tonight. A lot of good photos. Any questions to take back for him? I've been taking notes about I think Patty and the others have had good communications with Calvin regarding Pahoa Ridge project. All I know personally is that it's the hardest thing to find available land, and that parcel is so congested to begin with, but nobody wants it. But yet, the planning philosophy is highest and best use. It's zoned urban, it's zoned apartments. So the developers have had good success with other projects in Kaka'ako and such, but low affordable. Yeah, it's a terribly congested area, but it's also near shopping, it's near bus lines, it's near schools, and it's promoting transportation other than car transportation.
No.
So anyway, this is just it. But
Margaret,
any questions to take back?
Laura, you have a question?
Yes, Melvia, I would like Kelvin Say to have a budget ready from the city and county, probably provisional, about the extended in perpetuity costs of any kind of bridge that is built over the canal, on both sides of the canal, the people that have to be anti-graffiti security, full-time security, extension of bathrooms, all of the many other things that will compromise the city and county. And after all, that's our taxpayer dollars. So could he please have some kind of provisional budget ready? Things can't just be plopped in and have no attention to how the infrastructure is continued. So,
Yeah,
okay.
good question. Good question, Laura. To my knowledge, there has always been repair maintenance budget always in annual CIP budgets.
It's a little more than maintenance budget. It's something
It's
that goes
ongoing
on.
maintenance, repair. Graffiti cleaning is probably very obvious, but probably the least expensive as opposed to
Every day.
repaving and concrete. But yeah, that is an ongoing budget line item for it's under DDC, design and construction.
Well,
But I'll take that back to him. Yeah.
yeah, just look at the Kuile Place and all the graffiti that's there already. So you'll get an idea of what's going to go on. Okay, thank you.
Laura and Miss Ishii, if you can be very brief with because we do have Jackson Sayama who's here.
Okay, yes, thank you. Hello, could we please get arrange a meeting with Council Member Say because of what's going to be happening with Pahoa Ridge?
And this is in addition to the meeting that was already held with DTS and DOT.
Well, that was with the developers, and we would like to do it without the developers present.
So what is the purpose of this meeting with?
We're
with
very concerned.
Just him and who else? If you don't want to have.
Well,
Yeah.
since we don't want this to become another Kuile Place, and we feel the city council really hurt our neighborhood by approving Kuile Place, and we don't want this to happen again. We don't want another
You're
project
concerned
like
about
that.
the height, yeah.
The
You're
height
still
and
concerned about the
traffic, health issues, safety issues.
I can just say maybe you could take that offline and chat with set up an appointment then. I think that's probably you're
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Put your
Thank you.
email in the chat box.
Thank you for coming tonight, Melvia.
Okay,
and
thank you. Happy holidays all.
holidays. We do have Jackson Sayama. Hey Jackson, I see you're all in your sweater. You must be freezing cold. Why don't you tell us what you got going?
Sounds good. Aloha, everyone, chair, members of the board. So as we go into December, yes, please stay warm, but also it's going to be the legislative session next month. So I am busy preparing for the legislative session, particularly when it comes to my committee in consumer protection and commerce. We deal with a lot of issues, but primarily issues related to insurance. So property insurance is going to be a major concern for this coming session, not only for single family homeowners insurance, but particularly for condominium insurance, because we are getting indicators from the condominium industry about potential market failure when it comes to having insurance policies available to not only insure individual condo units, but to ensure the entire condominium building as a whole. So the legislature is currently working with the industry experts and insurance carriers to find a way to perhaps stabilize the market. But that's again some ongoing discussion right now that will continue to take place during the legislative session. For myself, I am happy to announce for the board that in response to the House concurrent resolution last session, this is regarding the double polls for HECO and Hawaii Telecom, that the Public Utility Commission is moving on that. And I believe HECO, the utility companies and the Public Utility Commission had a meeting this past week to discuss their plan of action to address the double pole issues across our neighborhoods. And I know that on St. Louis Heights, we have a number of those. So I'll try to keep the board updated on that. Other legislative bills that I'll be working on is a mandatory insurance requirement for moped drivers. Under state law, mopeds are exempt from mandatory insurance. That other automobiles, bikes, cars are mandated. So I'm just applying the same rules to moped drivers. Aside from that, we are taking a look at the state's workforce readiness. It takes a considerable amount of time to hire anyone in civil service. And so to make sure that the state stays competitive with the private market, we are trying to streamline that civil service recruitment process. The city and county of Honolulu commissioned a report from a graduate student, and they were able to reduce their recruitment timeline considerably, 25 to 50%. So the state, I hope to put money for a similar study and for this Department of Human Resources Development to do the same thing that the city did. With that, I'm open to questions, and if you do have any interests in legislation or policy concerns, feel free to contact my office.
Thank you, Jackson. And I think people are going to have to email you offline because we are near approaching out of time. I do want to contact you about the polls. I have another suggestion for you, or maybe something we can work on together. With that, of course, the rest of the business is not going to happen tonight. I appreciate everybody's considered input. Dealing with each other with aloha. It's the way that we always need to roll. I hope you all have a very happy and healthy end of the New Year's, and good luck with the fireworks. In any event, we will convene here in a month on the January 11th, second Thursday, as always. I hope everybody has a wonderful evening, and with that, I am adjourning the meeting. Thank you.
Bye. Have a great Christmas.